The Reserve Bank widely expected to raise interest rates today by another 25 basis points. That takes the cash rate to 3.6%. Let's go to Scott Phillips, the Chief Investment Officer at the Motley Fool. Is it a lay-down misere, a foregone conclusion, if you like, it's happening today, Scott?
Pete, good morning. Look, you would assume so, and that's certainly the view of the economists. There's always two questions. What should the RBA do and what will the RBA do? They're often different. I've said before, the RBA can find a reason if they want to keep rates on hold, if they want to pause and see what's happening. They can absolutely point to softer than expected GDP. They can point to inflation that is still way too high but coming down. If they want to pause, if they think they need to, or they simply want to have more time, they'll use those as reasons. I don't think anyone, or not many people anyway, believe they should, though. Pause, unfortunately, there's plenty of people out there paying mortgages who are saying, hang on, I'd like a break, please. Maybe we should wait and see. Simple reality, mate, is inflation is too high. It's going in the right direction, but if you take the foot off the accelerator too quickly, you do run the risk of things either continuing to go back up or take longer to deal with that inflationary pressure. The RBA will have that front of mind.
Or conversely, you go too hard, you start getting into a recession territory.
Yeah, and here's the thing, mate, and this is the thing that I think we need to remember. The RBA is not going to avoid a recession if they think they need to push inflation down. We've seen in the past, most notably in the US in the early 80s, Paul Volcker there, when he was US Fed chair, he specifically pushed rates up even during a recession. So bad and so urgent you see that need. So I think we have this thought that the RBA will do whatever it can to avoid a recession. I don't think that's necessarily true, unfortunately. They will try and avoid recession if they can. But I think if they're faced with recession or inflation, they will choose recession, and not deliberately and not without other options. Again, speaking of other options, the government has a role to play here, and they're not. No, that's the past governments as well, by the way. There's not a political view. The fiscal policy is not doing enough. But I don't think we should assume they will do whatever it takes to avoid a recession. They've said before they'll do whatever it takes to push down inflation. That is their absolute laser focus. Yeah. If recession is the outcome, I think they'll say that's unfortunate, but I don't think that'll stop them.
Is a recession better than runaway inflation?
It is, unfortunately, mate, because it's temporary. Prices never come back down. That's that's why inflation is so bad. If prices go up, say, pick a number, 7% a year for 3 years, that hurts our standard of living by 20% permanently. It never goes away. Recessions, we go in recession, the economy goes backwards. 18 months later, we're back in pretty good health. Now, I don't want to be callous about it. There are people who lose jobs, lose houses, lose businesses. So, again, this is the problem. When you're the RBA, you've only got a national decision, right? You can't say, that person might get hurt, therefore I won't do anything at all. So, this is why I think the economic conversation needs to be a bit broader and, frankly, a bit deeper. The Reserve Bank, the Treasurer, economists, journos, we should be talking about this because no one wants a recession. But it is absolutely better, and this is almost as like sacrilege, absolutely better than having long-term high inflation. So that's why the RBA, that's why the US Fed have effectively said whatever it takes. And again, the lesson from the 80s is it works. Paul Volcker did kill inflation, effectively stayed dead for 40 years. Now, it wasn't just central bank policy that did that. Deflation from Asia and other things, a whole lot of things going on. But the honest answer is economists would generally say, not everyone, would generally say a recession is better than a long-term high inflation.
Yeah, and so with that said, and with an expectation that there's not just going to be a rate rise today, but there could be another one and maybe even two more after this, why not just hit us with a double rate rise today, a supersized 50-pointer, and then be done with it?
Yeah. I think at this point you might as well, mate. If they can see the end in sight and they know where they want to get to, one and done, particularly if they can say that. If this is the problem, though. They can't promise that they won't have to do more. And so that's why it's such a challenge, is they want to try and inch there. The answer to why they wouldn't is because maybe the next lot of data shows inflation dropping in half. Maybe GDP falls off a cliff. We are seeing some financial stress reports, for example. So maybe it's working, and maybe you don't want to go too hard too quickly. They want to inch along, try and work out the right point to stop. It's almost, by the way, every single time the rates go down, they go down too far. Every time rates go up, they go up too far, almost by definition. Because you only know in hindsight what the right point was, where we should have stopped. Almost never the case they stop exactly on a dime. They always overshoot in both directions. And again, that's not because they're incapable or not worthy of the job. It's just because that's the reality of trying to speculate on what the future might be, how long it might take, how deep it might go. No one knows. And so they are absolutely, they're fishing blind. They're doing their best to try and get the right number. So that the reason they would give is so they can go as slowly as possible, but as quickly as they feel like they need to, and not further than they want to accidentally.
All right, Scott Phillips, good to see you. We'll talk to you again soon.